All right, so we are being recorded, and I want to welcome everybody to the July 911 Task Force Lunch and Learn. So thank you so much for attending, everyone. And I want to welcome Dr. Jody Slate with Denver 911. And she's invited some nice folks from SPIDRTech, Versaterm, to talk to us about SPIDRTech technology and how it benefits 911 centers. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jody, and she'll get this party started. Thanks so much for being here, everybody.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right. Hello, everyone. So again, thanks for being here today. I'm very excited for this meeting. Like Jennifer mentioned, we do have Brad Jensen and Jennifer Brotherton here with Versaterm with us to talk about the SPIDRTech software. So they'll be demoing the software and can explain in detail, but in a nutshell, it's a system that enables agencies to keep track of a call from receipt to completion all the way through the police side of it as well. This includes feedback surveys, prompts for responses from callers, and keeps them in the loop as far as what the results were with calls and whatnot. So it's very exciting. We've been using it for a little while. So without further ado, I'll let them get into the details, but I'll turn it over to Brad and Jennifer for the demo. Then I'll share my experience with you all with the software and how we're using it at Denver 911. And then we also have Noah Carter with DPD to share how DPD is using it as well after their demo. So Jennifer and Brad, it's all yours. Thanks for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having us. So just to introduce myself, my name is Brad Jensen. I live here in Colorado. I live in Centennial now. I worked for Denver Police. I worked for Jody specifically. I was a DPD for 10 years in the Communication Bureau. Loved every minute of it. Was super passionate about always kind of that technology piece of what we did within the comm center, how we could use technology to make our lives easier, how we could use it to make our customer service experience better. So that's when about 2 years ago, I made the jump to Versaterm, and now that's what I get to do all the time is cruise around and share our technology with everybody. So I appreciate everyone having me. I'm excited to talk through everything today. And Jen, I'll let you introduce yourself as well.
Hey, thanks, Brad and Jody. I'm Jen Brotherton. I retired after 23 years with the Tucson Police Department. It's easier for me to tell you all the jobs I didn't do rather than the opportunities that were given to me. But I did a lot of time in operations, not only as an officer, sergeant, as well as commander level. And I retired out of the Public Information Office, which is always the most illustrious place in a department, but not fun at all. Probably forced me into retirement earlier than I thought I would go. But anyways, so in August of 22, after 23 years, I retired to spend more time with my soon-to-be adult children. I realized that one of us as parents need to be home and present to get them launched out of the nest properly. So, and I switched over to Versaterm as well. I love the idea that I get to continue to use my experience and opportunities that provided with me and make connections and manage relationships and helping agencies leverage technology. So I generally pick up the relationship after our software goes live. And then I maintain that relationship with monthly or quarterly meetings as needed by the agency to ensure that they're getting full value from the software that they pay for. So thanks, Brad.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right. So I shared my screen. Can everybody see my screen? Someone just give me a thumbs up. Jen, perfect. All right. Thank you, Jennifer. So yeah, so today we're going to talk about SPIDRTech. We'll talk a little bit about, or a lot about, what it does, what it can do. We'll talk a little bit about specifically what Denver's using it for. Currently, Denver went live in November of last year. Aurora went live in, March of this year, maybe, right about there. So we got a couple of agencies that y'all can reach out to if you have questions about specifically how they use it, that sort of thing. So SPIDRTech is our community engagement platform from Versaterm Public Safety. Some of you may know Versaterm from the historical business. We've been around for a long time doing CAD and RMS stuff, but in the last 5 years, it's changed a lot. So Over the last 10 years, Versaterm has acquired a handful of technologies and business units now to do everything that you see on your screen there. So we started in CAD and records, and we kept getting requests from customers to, do you have a community engagement product? Do you have a telephony product? Do you have a court product? Do you have a crime lab product? So we kind of built this ecosystem that you see in front of you here, which includes everything from 911 call handling with Commutel on the far left, through CAD, records, body-worn cameras, digital evidence management. We have a second CAD and RMS platform that we just purchased called Athena, which is designed more for smaller agencies. So it helps us make sure that we can have better offerings for an agency of any size. Justice Tracks in the crime lab, IA Pro, if you've had the pleasure of interacting with internal affairs, eJust goes all the way out to the court system. And then our most recent acquisition, I think, it changes a lot, is Mindbase, which you see down at the bottom there. So Mindbase is a responder health and wellness tool. It can trigger automatically out of CAD and RMS events. Super cool. I'm so excited about that acquisition. It's going to help us serve not only our comm centers and our partner agencies so much better, but the responders themselves. So that's a little bit of a big picture of what we do. Like I said, SPIDRTech is part of our community engagement sleeve there. So it's part of how we interact as agencies with our community and with our citizens. So SPIDRTech's been around for about 8 years, and it started with 2 full-time police officers sitting in the front of their police car talking about how when they order a pizza from Domino's, they get updates when it gets made, when it goes in the oven, when it goes out for delivery, and then they get a survey to follow up after they eat their delicious pizza. But when we call 911, we get nothing. Is an officer coming? Are they not coming? Did they get delayed? What happened? What's my report number? All those sorts of things. So they started brainstorming how kind of private industry had driven this customer service bar higher for all of our community members and how we could incorporate that into public safety. So it looks a little different within public safety, as you all know. It's a totally unique industry, but there's still a great application here. So we'll kind of talk through what it does and where it goes. If anyone has a crazy question as I'm going through, feel free to raise your hand. I'll try and keep an eye on it. Jen will help me keep an eye on that as well. Otherwise, we do have some time set aside for Q&A at the end as well. We can always jump back in. So to give you an idea of what SPIDRTech does, it's built out into 4 major modules, the ones you see here on their screen. So Patrol is our frontline module. That's going to start messaging with the reporting party once we receive a call, whether it's 911 or non-emergency. Investigations picks up if we have an officer go out and take a report, and then it keeps the crime victim up to date throughout the reporting and investigation process. Insights is that piece that Jody mentioned where we can send out follow-up surveys. So how is your interaction with the call taker? How is your interaction with the patrol officer, with your detective? How is response times? How safe do you feel living in our city? Anything we want to ask, we can ask via those surveys. And then our community engagement platform is one of the newest. And that gives us the opportunity to build a list of opt-in subscribers so that we can build a system of ongoing messaging with our community as well. So we have this big cross-section of the community that's open to receiving ongoing messaging from our police departments, and this is our opportunity to do that. So it tends to pair with what the PIO is doing, what we're already doing on social media, that sort of thing. So as I mentioned, the patrol module starts at the very beginning. One of the most important things that I have to tell all of you right up front is that all of this messaging is automated based on triggers in your CAD or RMS. So there is no additional work for your call takers. There's no additional work for your dispatchers. There's no additional work for the patrol officers. No buttons to push. We're going to set up these messages in advance, and they're automatically going to trigger based on your current workflow in CAD or RMS. So that first message in the CAD, we call it a CAD acknowledgement message. So this is as simple as that call comes into your center. Can be 911, it can be non-emergency, but when your call taker or dispatcher creates that incident in the CAD, that's going to trigger this initial message out to the reporting party. It's just going to acknowledge that we received the call. Typically says something along the lines of, you contacted Denver police on this day at this time. Here's your CAD number. If you have any questions or anything changes before the officer gets there, here's our non-emergency number. The fact that we include the non-emergency number in that first message is the reason why I took a job at Versaterm. It made me so happy to see right off the bat. The number of 911 calls that I answered where someone was like, yeah, is the officer going to get here soon? And I'm watching 911 calls hold, drove me crazy. So even just driving those follow-up calls to the non-emergency has a huge benefit. This message itself is customizable for the agency. It's also customizable by call type. So you can see in this example here, this from Sacramento, it's related to a vehicle accident. So we can provide some pre-arrival instructions in there too, based on your department's policy. So please make sure that you have your state issued ID, registration, and insurance information ready. If it's safe to do so, move your vehicles out of the roadway. Here's the hyperlink to file your report online. Please don't wait for a police officer. Anything we want to tell them, we can tell them there. Customizable by call type. As you guys all know very well, a theft from a motor vehicle is different than a burglary. If a residential burglary, we could have them start gathering a list of what's missing, serial numbers, whatever we need to do so we can expedite that patrol officer's time once we're on scene as well. So the whole design of this messaging system is to increase that communication without increasing the workload on our call takers and dispatchers. So we're being more transparent, we're setting expectations, we're increasing community participation, and hopefully we're eliminating some of that work from our call takers and eliminating those redundancies. There's two other messages that we can send out of the patrol module. So based on triggers in the CAD, the first one's called a delayed arrival message. Like I said, I spent 10 years at Denver Police, fantastic agency. Occasionally, we did hold calls for an extended period of time. So this message is designed to proactively notify the community member or the reporting party that we haven't forgotten about them. So we can set it to a customized time frame, could be 30 minutes, an hour, 15 minutes, whatever we want it to be. And if an officer is not marked on scene in the CAD, it'll trigger this message out to the citizen. Typically just says something along the lines of, we apologize for the delay. We haven't forgotten about you. We're getting out to you as quickly as we can. And again, if anything's changed or you need to cancel, here's the non-emergency number to follow up. Again, we can turn this on and off based on call types. So obviously high priority calls, we're probably not going to be sending delayed arrival messages anyway, but we can simply turn that off just so we have it. I love the way this minimizes callbacks from the citizens. Again, the number of calls that I answered during my time at Denver that were like, where's my officer? When are they getting here? Are they on their way? This at least lets them know that we still have their call, we're experiencing a higher call volume, or we're on a priority incident, and that we haven't forgotten about them. Also, it continues to increase that transparency and dependability. The last message there we can send out of the CAD is what we call a call disposition message. So when your dispatcher or when the patrol officer closes out that incident in the CAD, based on the disposition code that they use to close out the incident, we're going to send a kind of a closure message to the reporting party. So could be party advised, report taken, UTL, GOA, whatever, based on that dispo code that we use to close it out. So it closes out that communication loop, lets the reporting party know what we did with that information. A lot of times this is especially useful, I think, of Denver, where we just BOLO'd a lot of reckless driver complaints. So we BOLO'd it out to the officers in the district. We can let the reporting party know what we did with that information. Again, that whole platform is completely customizable for your agency. So we understand that policies and procedures differ from agency to agency. So we've created the platform to be really customizable. So this is what the platform looks like when a partner agency logs in from their side. Looking at one of the message types, we upload all of your call types. And as you can see there, you can turn the messaging for individual call types on and off simply with one of those toggle buttons. So you as an agency have the ability to customize that on the fly. We can go in and we can customize fireworks complaints around 4th of July or New Year's or Cinco de Mayo in Denver, and customize that message to adjust our response. Any of those things you all have the ability to do within the platform. In addition to being able to make all those changes yourself, that's exactly what Jennifer does with all of our partner agencies. Her job is to go in there, just like she said, make sure y'all are getting the most out of the platform, help you with any batch changes, any retraining, any reports that you need to pull out of that, anything like that. So just recapping that patrol module, since this is the one that impacts communications the most for sure. We have the ability to send out that message when we receive the call, any delays getting out to the call, closing out that communication loop with call closure. And then this is our first opportunity to send out a survey, which we'll talk about what that survey looks like a little later. But at this point where that reporting party has gone through an interaction with the call taker, maybe an interaction with the patrol officer if they responded, we can gather some information about that, what that interaction looked like. Are there any questions at this point about this particular module? Quiet group. All right. Jen said she's monitoring the chat as well. So if you have any questions you want to drop in the chat, you can do that. Just to give you an idea of what this looks like in real life. Denver has been kind enough to let us share some of their numbers with you. So like I mentioned, Denver launched November 8th of 2023. From November 8th to today, they have sent 499,639 messages through the SPIDRTech platform. So if you think about the difference between what that was before and what that was after, and the amount of proactive communication that they're providing to their community members, that's 71,000 messages a month. Their current survey completion rate, again, we'll look at surveys more specifically a little later, but it's about 15%. For anyone that's curious, the average survey completion rate across the entirety of the internet is 10%. So a 15% completion rate, and that's not just people that opened it and started to respond and close it out. That's they went all the way through and completed the survey. That's a lot of feedback, which provides a lot of tools to the agencies to make data-driven decisions. So we talked about those three message types within the patrol module. In Q1 of 2024, so covering a 3-month period, Denver sent out almost 72,000 of those CAT acknowledgement messages, almost 60,000 of those delayed arrival messages, and almost 65,000 of those call disposition messages. So if you go back and you just think about, say, half of those community members that received a delayed arrival message that normally would have called in to ask about their ETA, if they didn't call in, we're eliminating 10,000 calls per month by proactively providing that delayed arrival message from the SPIDRTech system. So those are, I mean, numbers that I just made up, 50%, that sort of thing, but those delayed arrival numbers, the amount of messages that Denver has sent is up to date. So after that piece, our investigations module takes over. So once that call comes in, officer responds. If we take a report while we're out there, the officer drops that report in the RMS. Now we have identified a crime victim and we want to keep them up to date on their case. So we send out a couple different message types from the investigations module. At this level, we do send them out both via text message and via email if our officers are collecting an email as part of the report process. But again, no buttons to push, no additional action for the patrol officer or the officer that takes the report. It's triggered by the RMS data. So when that case hits the RMS, or when the supervisor approves that report in the RMS, whatever we decide we want that trigger to be, that's when this initial message is going to go out to our crime victim. So this initial victim acknowledgement message is basically a summary of their report. And I've answered every single one of these questions on the phone, just like I'm sure all of you have as well. What's my report number? What was the date of the report? Who is the reporting officer? What was, where did it occur? What's going to happen next? How long does it take? All of that information we can include in this victim acknowledgement message. So in this example here from Vancouver, you can see Grace was the victim of a larceny. The report was taken on November 19th. Her reporting officer was Officer Turner. Her report numbers contained right there in the in that victim acknowledgement message. And then we can provide any additional information or links that we would like at that point. So we can let them know what's going to happen next, how long it's going to take, which department it's going to get routed to based on the crime type. We can direct them toward our victim services resources on our website. Anything we want to do within that message we can include. In addition, all of our messaging is available in multiple languages. So it's a little hard to see, but at the top of that message, there's a hyperlink to view that message in Spanish in addition to the default English. So I think Denver ended up doing a couple different languages, additional languages. So they have 4 or 5. But we typically do English, Spanish, and simplified Chinese as defaults. And then we work with agencies based on their community to include anything else we might need to include. This message, again, completely customizable for the agency and customizable by crime type. So we're obviously going to send unique messaging for a residential burglary versus a theft from a motor vehicle versus an assault. So providing that information up front to our crime victims, helping to empower them, helping to educate them on the process, and keeping them up to date throughout the process. So the next step after that initial message is any investigation updates. So if anything changes within their case, we can provide them with that update as well automatically. So again, this is going to be based on that trigger in the RMS. So when that detective sergeant goes in and assigns a detective, he changes it from open to detective assigned. We can automatically send a message to the crime victim that says, there's an update with your case. A detective has been assigned. It's going to be Noah Carter. Good luck, because he's not an investigator, but he's still a great guy. And it's going to, again, just provide them with that update, with that contact information, and help keep them up to date with their case. Any other major case status changes within the RMS can trigger an additional message as well. So when an arrest has been made, if it gets sent to the county for prosecution, if it gets closed out due to lack of evidence, I can't tell you, again, and you guys know this, how many times have you answered the phone and someone said, you know, I haven't heard anything about my case, and then we look it up and you're like, well, it's closed. And they're, why? Well, we can take the time not only to tell them that their case was closed, but we can explain why it was closed, maybe due to lack of evidence, lack of solvability, whatever it is. We can do a better job of proactively empowering and educating our community members and our crime victims, and eliminating a lot of those callbacks into the comm center. The last piece as well within our investigations module is our victim information portal. So this lives in kind of in a subsection of the cloud where our SPIDRTech overlaps with your RMS information, but this allows a crime victim to go in at any time with their case number and some basic personal identifying information. They can view their current case status. So if their case is open, detective assigned, an arrest has been made, whatever it is. Maybe they haven't heard about us or heard anything from us in a few days, few weeks, few months. They can go in and check their case status. Additionally, this is a tool for your communications personnel as well. If the citizen has their case number and that identifying information, your call takers can use this tool to look up their case status and provide that information to the citizen as well. So it's one more point of reference, one more way to make that, to kind of streamline that workflow. Any questions on the investigations portal? We're going to start talking about surveys. All right. So the insights module, again, is where we have the ability to send out those follow-up surveys. So we can send out a survey after that initial CAD interaction, so we can get some feedback on what their interaction was like with the call taker, what their interaction was like with the patrol officer. We can also send out surveys within the investigation process as well. So after that first victim acknowledgement message, or we can wait all the way until our case is closed, but we can get some more feedback from our citizens about what their experience was like. So this gives us that ability to set up that feedback loop. Of course, we want to be able to identify liabilities and areas for improvement, but much more than that, we see a huge amount of positive feedback come out of these surveys. So we have about, we got to be up to about 130, 135 agencies in North America using SPIDRTech. And we typically see about 90 to 95% of the feedback that we get is positive. So I don't know if we have supervisors in the room, but that was my role when I was with DPD. And when I got to the end of the year and I was doing my annual reviews on all my employees, to have this repository of positive feedback that came in from the SPIDRTech platform would have been gold for me. It would have made my job of filing that annual review so much easier. So it's a great way to improve morale, encourage good behaviors, give shout outs and roll call, provide certificates during the week. However you want to use that positive information, it's an incredible tool. So our surveys themselves go out via text with a link to a web-friendly survey. So it's important to note here that every message that comes from the SPIDRTech platform is going to come from the same phone number. So it's not going to look dodgy. It's not going to look like spam. It's going to come on the back end of that messaging that we've already provided. So Denver PD, for instance, has a 10-digit number with a local area code that's assigned to their SPIDRTech account. And that's where all of those messages come from. So once the community member clicks on that link to the survey, it opens that mobile-friendly survey. And at that point, we can ask a wide variety of questions in a wide variety of formats. So again, everything branded specifically for your agency. The survey itself is customizable for your agency, and everything available in multiple languages, again, even at the survey level. One of my favorite things about these surveys is that we can ask ultimately an infinite number of questions. We have no restriction in terms of the number of questions that we can ask or the type of questions that we can ask. We can ask yes/no questions, ranking questions, free text questions. We can ask check all that apply questions. It's really versatile in terms of how we need to, or how we can receive feedback. So if we have specific goals that we want to use this survey tool for, like we have a lot of agencies that use it for their CLIA accreditations, they need to ask specific questions to be able to back up their CLIA renewals every year, that sort of thing. So it's super customizable for you as an agency and for what your goals are as an agency. Let's see here. What else? Then we got to provide all of that feedback back to you guys, to you all. So again, as a frontline supervisor at DPD, I would have loved to have this information about all of my call takers to be able to keep track of in their evaluations. Everything's available in what we call our Spotlight dashboard. So it's available on demand for whomever within the department you choose to give access to. We can also provide daily survey update emails to a certain email group. So if you wanted all your ops supervisors or all your patrol commanders to get that email once a day and be able to see what surveys came in from the day before, that becomes a great tool to give out those attaboys each day and roll call when you get your shift started. A huge part of Jen's job too, she provides monthly digests or at least quarterly business reviews, again, just to make sure that you're getting the most out of that application. Can provide a ton of transparency to the chief, to command staff, to the mayor, to city council. I'm sure none of you have city or municipal councils that are breathing down your neck about how your job's going and about the department being transparent. It kind of seems to be all the rage right now. The other tool that I love is what we call our feedback board. So we had a customer agency in Texas that he said, I've got all this amazing feedback. He's like, I literally want to put it on a screen in the public facing lobby of the police department. So we created this feedback board specifically for him. You can see along the top what we call our 3 major base metrics. So how would you rate your interaction with the officer? How would you rate your interaction with dispatch? And how satisfied are you with the department overall? And then down below, we have free text responses from the citizens. So there's lots of different ways to incorporate having those free text responses automatically load to the board. You can load them manually to the board. You can push them and pull them however you want. But again, the customizability is there. I would have loved to, again, have this up on a monitor in the comm center. I don't know if Jody's got there yet, but I'm going to keep bothering her about it. But for the call takers to be able to sit there and see in real time, could be a call they took yesterday, could be a call they took earlier today. They populate into that feedback board in real time. You'll also notice across the top the actual scores. That this is Allen PD in Texas. They're a fantastic agency. They're looking at 4.7 out of 5, 4.8 out of 5. Incredibly high scores. And this is real typical of all of our departments that use SPIDRTech. Again, just reinforcing that I think we get hesitant thinking that we're going to get all this negative feedback, but the vast majority of the feedback that we do get is very positive, and it's a great opportunity to improve morale there. Oops, I apologize. So again, what does this look like in real life for DPD in the first quarter of 2024? They sent out 47,000 survey invites. We have the ability to send out survey reminders. So if they received the invite and it's been a couple days, a couple weeks, and they haven't filled out their survey, we can send them a reminder. In Q1, Denver received a little over 2,000 survey responses a month. So I don't know how many of you currently have a survey process in place. Most of us have to if we're CLIA accredited of some kind. But usually what that looks like is a sergeant somewhere picking up a phone and calling random citizens, or our police volunteers going door to door and knocking and asking for survey feedback. And I guarantee none of those mechanisms are getting you 2,000 responses a month. So that's a huge bucket of information that Denver's been able to open up and now can take advantage of, both for training opportunities and identifying liabilities, but maybe even more importantly, for that increased morale, increased retention, that sort of thing. All of our messaging, just as a side note, follows FAA guidance in terms of unsubscription. You can text stop and it'll stop messaging you. That being said, Denver's unsubscribe rate in the Q1 was 1.38% on however many messages we decided they send a month, 70,000. So incredibly low unsubscribe rates. We tend to get a very positive response from the community on this electronic communication. Any questions about surveys? Otherwise, I have one more module, and then we'll hear Jody share a little. And then, like I said, we can do some Q&A at the end as well. Awesome. So the community engagement module, like I mentioned, this gives us an opportunity to gather opt-in subscribers who want to get ongoing messaging from the department. So we've initiated this messaging with our community members that starts when they call, ends when the call gets closed out, or maybe ends when their case gets closed out. But why not give them an opportunity to have an ongoing conversation with the department as well? So that's where community engagement comes in. We don't want to stop that messaging and communication with our citizens. We want to continue it. So if they choose to subscribe, then they opt into the messaging, and then it's up to the agency to use that to develop those campaigns. So there's literally no limits. San Antonio PD down in Texas was our very first department to use this module, and they've used it for all kinds of different things. As I mentioned, it's a lot of things that tend to pair with the PIO office or what we're already doing on social media, but it gives us one more avenue to reach out to those community members that have actively engaged with us. So San Antonio send out updates on missing persons, road closures, backpack giveaways, community events, Crime Stoppers messages, DUI enforcements. They do regular messages from the chief in San Antonio that they send out those videos via their community engagement module as well. A couple different ways that our community members can subscribe. We give you a short code that they can text to that 10-digit number. So for instance, in San Antonio, is as simple as SAPD. Text SAPD to this phone number. It'll automatically opt you in. The other thing we've done is created a question within the survey that just says, would you like to opt in to additional messaging from the department? And we're seeing about 50% of the individuals that complete that survey also choose to opt in to that community engagement module. So again, what's that look like in real life? Well, since November of 23, Denver's added 5,000 new subscribers to their community engagement module. So now they have this ability at any point in time to send a message to 5,000 of their community members that have chosen to have an ongoing interaction with the department. And that number is going to continue to grow, looking at about 718 new subscribers a month. So it gives a great opportunity to connect with our community, great opportunity to open up another pathway to communicate with them and keep them up to date. So that is the big picture of what the platform does. Please feel free to screenshot this page. This is my contact information and Jen's contact information. I'll turn it back over to Jody, unless Jen, did you have anything additional that I missed? What did I forget to say?
You said it all, Brad.
I always do. I'm good at that. Then Jody, it's back to you.
All right. Thank you, Brad, for all of that. So just wanted to give you all a firsthand account of how we're using it here at Denver 911. So I'll repeat some of the stuff that Brad talked about and just kind of talk about how it applies here. But as far as the in progress calls, so the messaging that goes out, the delayed messaging, I can say it has decreased the amount of time spent on callbacks tremendously for us. The system does it for us, and we were able to configure what calls get a callback, like what nature codes get a callback, at what intervals, how many times. We were very involved in the configuration process of that, and we were able to make that specific to us. So once, as Brad mentioned, once the call is closed, it does send the message with basically a dispo to a citizen. You know, we were able to also configure those messages to how detailed we wanted. We didn't want to send CAT event numbers. We didn't want to send, you know, specifics about if there was an arrest made or things like that. So we were able to configure that as well. And those messages have helped with decreasing callbacks from people asking what happened. Brad gave some of our data. I don't know all of the exact data, but the report from my employees is that they do notice a difference in terms of people calling back. He did share some of our data, and I think it was like 60,000 callbacks for delayed arrivals that would have been phone calls initiated by my staff. So we have noticed a little bit of a difference there. I know Brad talked a little bit about the dashboard. So you can grant access to the dashboard, but I decided, maybe I'm a micromanager, I don't know, but I decided that I wanted to do it a little bit different for my team. I access the dashboard myself each week, and then I download the information. I put it in a spreadsheet that I created so that I can keep track to be sure that the supervisors are actually doing something with the responses. So I put those responses each week in the spreadsheet, and then the supervisor team gets that. Then I can go in and check their dispo notes on what they did. So if it was, say, for example, if it's a kudos, it shows the supervisor that's assigned to it. And then I added a section to the spreadsheet that shows what they did. So either they entered a GT, a Guardian Tracker entry for them, a positive entry, or they researched the call, and, you know, whatever they did is in there. So that way I can keep track and make sure as a manager that we are, as a leadership team, being responsive to people's responses. They're taking the time to send these in. It's important that we are responsive to those. So the way I have it set up is my supervisors are to research anything with less than a satisfied response, just to double check that we're offering excellent customer service, they're handling calls appropriately, you know, listening to those calls and making sure, you know, that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Any responses that we get with specific mention about a call taker gets a positive entry. People typically don't take the time to make phone calls to let us know that they had a great experience. Even if they did have a great experience, typically people don't take the time to do that. So because of the surveys, and because people don't take that time, it was rare that we would get that positive feedback. So the surveys have literally tripled the number of positive entries for our employees. It's done wonders for appreciation and adds to, like, the supervisor one-on-one feedback meetings. And Brad mentioned annual evals. So it's huge for annual evals as well, because you have just an enormous number of kudos from citizens. And so the employees, they know they're appreciated. I feel like it's extra special when it comes from a citizen, because I can give kudos to my team all day long, and I try to as much as possible, but it's just that extra, there's that extra oomph to it when it comes from a citizen or you know, someone outside the agency. So it also offers a little bit of closure on calls, knowing that they really did help somebody that day and that they made a difference. So noticing that there. One of the other things that I'm noticing too is that it enables us to be sure that we're keeping track of patterns and other trends that we're seeing that can be easily fixed before they become a problem. So, for example, and I can show my spreadsheet that I created if you'd like, but what I notice is, let's say we have, it'll say the call taker, and let's say we have 3 or 4 or multiple responses where there is an issue about customer service. It could be just that person's tone, and maybe they don't realize. So we can say, okay, why is this person getting, customer service issues in their responses? So then we can go and listen to the calls, and then the supervisors are able to sit down with those call takers and say, hey, I want you to listen to this. And then they can listen to calls that maybe wouldn't have been caught before. And quite often I'll see the call taker who says, wow, I didn't realize that I sounded like that. So, just being able to catch those things before they become big problems. So what else? One of the other things that we're doing is we do collaborate with DPD about the responses. So occasionally I will get emails from command staff. They'll send some responses my way that maybe catch their eye. So it's prompted review into specific questions. For example, like if the caller wants contact. Sometimes we'll get responses that say, well, DPD never showed up. So I'll get an email from command saying, hey, can you double check this one? So we'll go in and make sure that the call taker asked about contact. Was it asked? Was it documented correctly? Then was it aired by the dispatcher? So things like that we can work together on to make sure that we're giving the best customer service. So those are some of the biggest things that I've noticed. Do you all have any questions for me on how we're using it? Okay. And I don't know, Jennifer, I don't know if I can go ahead and share my screen, if it'll just let me, or if you have to give me permission to.
You should be able to. Go ahead.
Okay, hold on, let me block out these names here first, since it's recorded and whatnot, so.
And Jody, just to piggyback off one of the comments you made, I've had multiple agencies as well share stories where they've said, hey, this officer or this call taker is 5 out of 5 all the time, and all of a sudden they're 2s and 3s. Let's check in with that person. Like, that could just be a wellness issue that it brings up that opportunity to say, hey, what's going on? Maybe they're going through divorce, they've got health issues, they've got something going on, something else where we can support them better. But being able to watch those trends helps us identify that and take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah.
Noah, while Jody's pulling that up, do you have anything to share from the DPD side? Observations?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Sweet. Yeah, I was going to share my screen a little bit too, but Jody, thanks for the invite, and go ahead and jump in and share and take over. I'm going to make this. Oh, looks like you're going, so I'll give it back to you.
I'm sorry, no. Can you just really quick? I just want to show the spreadsheet that I created, and then Noah, it's all yours. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is just something that I created. This column that I have blacked out is the call taker's name, but this is something that I created. It's basically a condensed version of the downloaded data that we get. And so I narrowed it down to our CAT incident number, the category of the call, the date, and then the call taker's ID number. My biggest focus, obviously, is how satisfied are they with the professionalism of the communications personnel. We get a lot more data. They ask about officer, they ask about so many other things, but this is the main one that I'm concerned about, and then any comments that they added. So I added this column here, a supervisor who's tasked with that review, and then it just depends on who's on their team. So they're supposed to go through and double check, and anything that's less than satisfied, they will go through and research that call and then document an outcome. So whether it was NA, and the ones that are NA, for example, let's say, for example, somebody is they're just mad. Maybe the call taker did a really good job, but they're really mad at the officer, or vice versa. Maybe the cop did a really great job, but they're just mad at the call taker. So then they mark everybody as, low scores. So those are the ones that typically end up with NA, that it didn't have anything to do with us, but maybe they, we got a very dissatisfied mark because they were just mad in general about one part of the response. So they marked everybody down. So, but that's how I track the responses and make sure that we're, you know, answering to things. And then if it's a response that needs a callback or follow up, we definitely make sure that we do that. So, Noah, it's all yours.
Sounds good. Thanks for the invite. I'm actually technician Noah Carter with the Denver Police Department. I was part of the project lead for the SPIDRTech implementation and deployment. So great, really, really positive experience, and we've really enjoyed the product. There's been a lot of benefits that we've seen, a lot of great forged relationships within the community. And I'm going to try and share my screen here. Let's see. All right, can you see my screen okay? So this is kind of like generalized. I'll try to keep this short because I know we have some Q&A after this, but I'll go ahead and put my information in the chat. And so if any of the agencies out there want to reach out, more than welcome to discuss offline and more additional meetings. So kind of what we're looking at here is the kind of the front end dashboard, the spotlight. So kind of what we utilize this for is a lot of times our commanders and district divisions. So for example, here, if our District 1 wanted to see kind of what the delayed responses of those specific officers, they can kind of go through, and it's a very interactive system, which has been very helpful for them. They get a lot of insight and knowledge, and they can provide that feedback loop back to the citizens during their committee meetings and such. And also we're getting a lot of great information back to our community resource officers, so they can kind of see the types of calls that are going on in the community. They can see the demographics of the insights and kind of the rating, so they can kind of talk the talk and talk to the numbers. One of the ideas that we're kind of looking to do is there is a really cool feedback loop board, and we're tossing around the idea of providing this onto a in the roll call rooms, where there'll be like just a automated refreshed spotlight survey results, and then the officers would have, you know, increased morale and maybe drive a little bit of friendly competition between themselves and stuff like that. We're also doing some really cool stuff with maybe some of the API work, where we can take this data, bridge it into a Power BI dashboard, drill down even to the neighborhood level. So really excited, really, really great. So any questions? All right. Well, thank you. And I'll leave my information. Again, I just wanted to keep it short. I could go on for a long time. I will say that we work with a lot of technology vendors and SPIDRTech, and not just because they're here, I would say it regardless. They were phenomenal. Their integration, implementation, deployment team is top notch and best in class. So yeah.
That's awesome, Noah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And just like Noah alluded to, and I'm the same way. I could talk about it forever, but there's all kinds of little pieces and tools in the back end as well. Like Noah talked a little bit about that API. So all of this survey data belongs to you, and we can kick it back to you in an API. We can dump it into a data lake, but then it's yours to run with, just like what Jody's doing in that spreadsheet, to be able to ensure that we're getting the most out of this information. Making data-driven decisions within a department is all the rage right now, right? And so we want to make sure not only do we have this data, but let's make sure that it's useful and functional. So I love the idea of the feedback board going in the roll call rooms. I mentioned Allen PD down in Texas. I talked to Assistant Chief Myers a couple weeks ago, and he said, because they have it on a monitor in their public-facing lobby. So every time someone from city council or from the mayor's office or whoever, every time they come and visit them, like they come to the department, they sit down in the lobby, and he intentionally leaves them in the lobby to see a couple rotations of that feedback board and make sure they notice it before he goes out and gets them and brings them back to his office. So it's a really powerful tool, and like Noah said, to be able to build morale and increase retention, which all of us could do better at, is amazing. So Somebody's got to ask a question, though. We can't go with no questions. I'll start asking Jody questions.
Well, I'm here for questions for sure. One of the things, okay, so if we're being totally transparent, because one of the questions that people tend to have with things like this is, okay, so what are the cons? You've raved about all the pros and this and that. So what is a con? Where can we improve? So if I'm being totally transparent, so first of all, it's all wonderful. One of the issues that I have seen is every now and then we'll get a complaint about, like, say a person receives a delayed message like the next day or long after the call is closed. So those are one-offs. What I can say about when those kinds of things happen, because it's technology, right? So things are gonna, we're gonna have hiccups here and there. But one of the things that I can say is when we do have those, which are one-offs, Jennifer is our team contact, and she's been very responsive to any concerns that we bring up. So anytime there is a hiccup or some kind of an issue with something, they're very responsive in terms of, okay, let's dive into this and figure out why that happened, and then working on fixes. But overall, very positive. So if anybody has questions for me, or if you all want to reach out to me as well, I'll be happy to sit down and chat and talk more in depth with you about it as well. But does anybody, last chance, does anybody have any questions at all for Brad or Jennifer or myself?
This is Jennifer. I have a question. Do you find in the surveys, do people generally answer the questions about the dispatchers, or do you sometimes find that they confuse the dispatchers and the cops and they give you feedback on the cops despite you asking about the dispatchers?
A little bit of both. Every now and then we'll see some bleed over with that. And that's kind of what I was talking about before, where you'll get like a very dissatisfied response with no comments. Or I'm sorry, you'll get a very dissatisfied response under the question about the communications personnel. And then all of their comments are related to, like, say a cop never showed up. And it could go both ways. It could be that they were satisfied with the cop, but maybe not the call taker. And so, so it can go both ways. But in my personal experience, yeah, whenever we get that, we just go in and double check, okay, did we do what we were supposed to do? But I think for the most part, the responses are pretty spot on. And people know what they want to give kudos to and what they want to complain about. So I think it's pretty spot on for the most part.
Great. And then Claire has a question in chat.
Claire, that's opening a slippery slope. So there are other products out there that do similar things, none of which I will name by name. But I think the biggest part of what makes SPIDRTech different from a lot of other community engagement platforms that are out there, or attempts at community engagement platforms, is that relationship and that service that both Jody and Noah alluded to. Like, we're a public safety company that makes public safety software. Actually, our CEO would cringe that I said that. Our CEO always says we're a customer service company that happens to make software. That's his favorite catchphrase. I bet Noah's heard that 50 times. And that's what we're all about. Like, we're all about equipping our partner agencies to really take advantage of the technology, of what they can do with it, of what they can do with the data. When you start to get to know the team, almost all of us look like Jen and I. I spent 10 years with Denver PD. Jen spent 24 or whatever with Tucson. We have retired police officers. We have retired dispatchers. We have retired call takers. We have retired firefighters. We have a little bit of everything, but not just folks that understand the technology, but folks that understand what you're trying to do with that technology, what you're really trying to accomplish. And when you start to dig into some of those other solutions, at the end of the day, they can get the job done. And if that works for you as an agency, fantastic. But they don't always understand the intricacies of the job that you're doing. They don't understand what it's like for a call taker to sit there for 10, 12, 16 hours a day and take those follow-up calls on a 911 line while they watch calls hold. Things like that we really try to focus on within our technology solutions, and creating that customizability to make it work for your agency. So we see quite often in a lot of other technology solutions, just limitations that don't let you set it up the way your agency needs to set it up. And it's really important to us that that's not how our technology works. So with our surveys, having an unlimited number of questions, being able to ask those different question types so that you're not limited in the types of questions you can ask or how many you can ask, are some of the advantages that our software tends to see over some of the other ones that are out there. The ability to, for you as an agency to go in and customize, like I mentioned, with just those toggle buttons or on the fly, are things that don't necessarily exist in some of those other solutions. But, you know, like I said, at the end of the day, a lot of them can get the job done. I'm biased toward our product and our relationship that we build with our partners, but that's just me. So find the one that works for you and go for it. But before you make a decision, let us come in and walk you through it first.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you for the question, Claire. I appreciate it. And you as well, Jennifer. I love to answer questions. I just like to listen to myself talk, really.
Well, this is not normally a quiet group.
All right. Any last minute questions? We have a few minutes, want to be respectful of time. So we have a few minutes left. So time for a question or two, maybe. Depends on how much Brad talks. But I also put my contact information in the chat in case anybody does want to chat offline about anything. So otherwise, Jennifer, do you have anything to add?
I don't. I want to thank everybody for the presentation. I learned a ton, and I think it's definitely an awesome tool for comm centers to explore to reduce their call load. We will upload this recording to the task force YouTube for people who weren't able to make it live or if they want to go back and review. So that'll be there. And I just appreciate everybody attending and the presentation. So thank you all for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And Noah, thanks for jumping on. Brad and Jen, I appreciate your time, and see you later, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great Thursday, everybody.